Thank you. So, I hate Christmas. Whenever I lose a good job, it's always during Christmas. Whenever I lose my home and I end up living out of the back of my Saturn station wagon in Austin, Texas, it's during Christmas. Whenever I have a serious partner that has a extreme anxiety attack and disappears one morning, it's always Christmas morning. Whenever my life goes to hell, it's always in time for the holidays. And this whole trend really started 10 years ago when I was living in New York City working as a production assistant on shows like Rescue Me and Law & Order. Now, if you're not familiar with production assistant work, I recommend the documentary Who Needs Sleep. It's about all of the deaths every year in the film industry due to sleep deprivation. It took me about a year to work myself into complete and utter physical exhaustion. I developed a case of stress-induced GERD so bad that I eroded the lining of my esophagus and ended up in the ER after throwing up a whole lot of blood. So in December of 2006, my declining health forced me to quit my job. I went flat broke, was borderline homeless, and I was throwing up all the time, and I fell into a really, really deep depression. I started drinking a lot, and I gained a lot of weight. I got myself wrapped up with a bunch of anarchist freegans who taught me how to dumpster dive for food, so I was literally eating trash. I had shattered my right hand after putting it through a bathroom wall for reasons that I don't remember now. I was a complete mess. And a few nights before Christmas, I was drinking alone and feeling especially self-destructive, so I took a Swiss Army knife and started blindly slashing at my arms. And I made about a 6-inch incision that opened up like the mouth of a sock puppet and started spurting out blood like something from a Quentin Tarantino film. So I was drunk and bleeding everywhere on everything, freaking out that I was going to die, and I was ripping up my t-shirts trying to make a tourniquet, and I just kept bleeding through all of them. And I knew I needed medical attention, but I couldn't afford another ER trip. So I wandered around looking for a pharmacy to buy liquid stitches. And I was living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and in 2006, it wasn't gentrified yet. There were no trendy bars or hip coffee shops or pharmacies, but there were all-night liquor stores. So I ended up stumbling around the streets with a handle of gut rot tequila, looking for a Dwan Reed, but instead I passed out in a booth in the back of a Burger King. And I woke up and the table was smeared with my blood everywhere. And I'll never forget hearing Bing Crosby's and David Bowie's Little Drummer Boy playing on the radio and thinking, oh, so this is what rock bottom feels like. So I put out my flip phone and I went on the internet, and it took me like a half hour to make words out of pounding numbers. And I asked Google for home remedies on how to stop pervasive bleeding. And I came across a camping article that recommended packing deep wounds with cayenne pepper. So I went to a bodega, bought some, and poured a ton of it into my cut. And yeah, it burned just as bad as you can imagine, actually way fucking worse. Steam was actually coming out of the cut, but it worked. It cauterized the wound and formed an instant scab, although it left a really nasty scar that now tingles right before it rains. So, to celebrate not dying, I hopped on a subway and went to Times Square at like 3 a.m., which was like a strange habit that I picked up whenever I was depressed in New York. There's something really peaceful and humbling about walking around Times Square at that time of night. And on my subway back to Brooklyn, there was this Haitian guy dressed up like Santa Claus, having a very public emotional breakdown, screaming Merry Christmas at all the passengers. And the more that everyone tried to ignore him, the crazier he got. And I made the mistake of making eye contact with him, so of course he walked over, sat down, and introduced himself. And fuck it, I was the drunk guy covered in dried blood with a gash full of cayenne pepper. Who the fuck was I to judge? So I talked to him, and he told me his story. He told me how he had moved to the US as a child with his family, and how he worked as a cab driver and went to school for real estate, and how he eventually developed his own business, and how much he loved working in real estate, and how much he loved New York. But his mother was in hospice care and was expected to die any day, and he just wanted someone to talk to and wish him a Merry Christmas. And so then I told him my story about what had happened that night and how stupid and ashamed I felt. And he told me, you know, as an aspiring filmmaker, that I wasn't allowed to feel ashamed or stupid, that it was my duty to tell my my story, and then he wished me a Merry Christmas, and it was like the most perfect New York moment. And so I woke up the next morning and I immediately started writing like a script about that night. And that day I went out with a video camera and I reenacted all of it. I got friends and roommates to be actors and cameramen. I got people I knew who worked at the Empire State Building who got me a free pass to go to the top so I could get aerial shots of the city. I had friends who managed the Film Forum movie theater to let me use it as a location. And in 2 days, on Christmas Eve, I had completed this 10-minute short film about my self-destructive odyssey and this beautiful moment I shared with this Haitian Santa Claus, just in time for me to come home and show it to my family on Christmas Day, which probably sounds kind of morbid and fucked up because it is. It was rather awkward. I mean, I still had bandages all over my arms, so, you know, they knew exactly, like, well, all right. But my family loved it. They know I'm a bit of a black sheep. And to this day, it's one of the things I'm most proud of having ever made. And every Christmas, when things are looking gloomy, and I think right now things are looking gloomy for all of us, I rewatch that film and it reminds me of that night and makes me thankful that it didn't go as bad as it could have been and how thankful I am that I'm still alive. And it reminds me of that Haitian Santa Claus and that beautiful moment I shared with them. And it gives me strength to start my climb back up in the new year. Thank you.